Advices Radio Network.
Blood, sweat, and gears for informational and educational purposes only. Kids, don't try any of this at home.
Make no mistake, I am a white trash motherfucker. And talk about it like it's normal, like, oh, and then you do this, and then you put this part in your butt. And, like, it's just like, this is what you do every day. Like, this is really comfortable to you. Okay, I'm cool with that.
Welcome back to Blood, Sweat, and Gear. I'm Scott McNally, and with me, as always, Skip Hill and S2H Scott. What's going on, man? How you been?
I've been all right. I've had some allergies, so I sound a little like Skip does normally at the start, a little nasally and stuff. So I'm going to try to, keep my voice clear and sexy as always.
It still sounds like 100 times better than it did before. Am I right, Skip?
Yeah, it sounds much better. Actually, I didn't even recognize his voice for the first few seconds that when we started, bantering like we do for 30 minutes before we push the button.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I feel more professional now. I got a new chair that I sit in. I kind of repositioned all my stuff. I got this mic. I kind of feel like Wolfman Jack or something, And yeah, good. I'm going to take a little 3-day vacation this week. So I haven't had a break in a while. So me and a couple of buddies of mine are going out to do a little fun in the sun, I guess you could say.
What do you mean? You're going to go surfing?
No, I don't surf.
It's hunting of some type, isn't it?
Well, we do excavation, I would call it. So some of these bigger ranches that are overrun with hogs and stuff, coyotes, we go out and eliminate some of that, so they're not messing with their cattle and screwing up all their property. I mean, you get hordes of them, 60, 80 of them at a time, running around there all wallering in and rooting up the ground, tearing stuff up.
That would be terrifying.
Oh, it's terrifying for them when we show up.
If you're a coyote, it would probably be really bad.
Yeah. I mean, they're pretty bad. I mean, Skip, you lived up in Colorado. I'm sure you know people that they're really bad for the cattle industry. Especially in the spring when the calves are more susceptible to them, and so this place is they've had a lot of problems. I mean, to where the point of like their domestic animals have been attacked by the dogs and stuff by coyotes and everything. So I'd be more than happy to come out there and help them. So we're going to go out there and give them a hand.
Well, contrary to what you guys may hear in the first 2 minutes of Blood, Sweat, and Gear, this is actually a bodybuilding show. And I've got Skip Hill, S2H, with me. These guys have been around the bodybuilding industry for a long time, coaching people, seeing a lot of different results with a lot of different protocols. And with that experience, we are going to answer questions today. We've got a bunch of questions from the message board over there at advicesradio.com. That's forum.advicesradio.com. And over there at the message board, as well as I've got a bunch of callers. I've got some callers lined up. And we've even have an IFBB Pro, Skip. We've got IFBB Pro Haley Delph. She's gonna join us to ask a question in just a few minutes.
Well, at least one of us will know what the hell we're talking about. It's always good to have intelligent guests on.
What's going on with you, man? This is our first show of 2019. We had our New Year's jamboree with Dr. Scott was with us, and we had a whole bunch of callers and stuff. You were saying in that episode that you've been you're kind of on a tear with your training and everything right now. How's it going?
Yeah, I kind of enjoy it. I'm in a different spot than I've been in a very long time, and it's funny because I thought, oh yeah, I'm back. I love training. But it's just different now. It's fun now. It's going back to doing things that I haven't done in a long time.
Nice.
In the gym as well. But the things I'm doing outside of the gym, I'm sure, are helping with the things that I haven't been able to do in the gym for a long time. Point is, I'm injury free. I'm kind of growing. I haven't had an off season in a very long time. So yes, it is going very well. I finished the first 12-week phase where I said I was just going to get lean, back into shape, because I didn't train for almost 12 weeks. Just basically just shut it down. I was done. Psychologically, I was done. Physically, I was just beat to shit. And it was just I was in a kind of a bad, I don't want to say dark space. I wasn't curled up in the fetal position in the back of my closet with a gun in my mouth, rocking back and forth. But psychologically, I was just in a place where I just wasn't very happy with things. And it's funny because I've said before, bodybuilding is not what I am and all that. But damn, when things aren't going well with training and things that I'm not training, I am reminded how important it is to me, and it's still a major component in my life. So when everything is going well, and I think you guys can relate, when everything is going well in the gym, you do tend to be, everything balances out. Everything is kind of in this symbiotic, homeostasis type thing where if your life is going well, your training is usually going well, and vice versa. So, I'm in a really good spot. I'm enjoying everything much more than I've enjoyed it in a very long time.
Nice, man. You know what, too? I know what you mean. You don't want you don't want to be like that one-dimensional guy where, it's like all you do is, think, breathe, eat bodybuilding, and that's it. But at the same time, man, it is a big part of your life. I mean, you're a guy who is coaching people as your source of income. Like that's your career. And you're a guy who hosts a podcast about bodybuilding. You know what I mean? You write articles for Elite and everything else. You everything in your life is surrounded by it, for better or worse. And so it's nice to me as a fan of all this stuff to see that in you, because I'm inspired by people that are inspired in their own lives, and it shows. It really does.
Well, I've heard it from clients as well, which is disappointing to me on the one hand, because I feel like I've always still been very, I'm very honest about my feelings about the industry and things like that. But I think sometimes it comes across very negative. And it's kind of a wake-up call for me, to be honest, because I think that's off-putting to some people. And I think now that I'm kind of in a different spot right now, I've had a lot of people tell me that they can see it, that they can tell what I'm talking to. They can tell on the podcast. And, that's like I say, it's a little bit of a reminder to me that sometimes maybe I play that old man cynical role, maybe a little bit too much, or a little bit more than I should. But in fairness, just being honest, I think that was part of the last couple of years. I had a lot of disappointment with, physically, with preps and with the TRT component. And I was getting really, really bored with the process. And think about this, just so that you guys can understand, the listeners can understand if you can't relate. I've been doing this for, doing what I do for training and stuff for 35 years. And then all of a sudden I have to switch. I'm forced to switch to almost kind of this, downshift, substantially downshift to TRT. And yeah, it was great at first because it was something new. And then where's the challenge in this? There just really wasn't one. I'm not going, I knew I wasn't going to go to the gym and do anything different than I'd done before. I'm not going to look any different than I've done before. And it kind of, after time, it just wears on you. Yeah. And you start to question, why am I really doing this? And then you start to justify it by, well, I also don't want to be, I don't want to be stereotyped as that narcissistic, arrogant dickhead that all he ever thinks about is training. Right now, I think about my training and more than I ever have before, and I kind of like it that way.
Nice. I know exactly what you mean, man.
Yeah. No, I feel pretty good.
You can't be like 100% plugged in all the time year round. You know what I mean?
No, but you will be judged for it, and I don't like that part.
Yeah.
I have been judged by some people who, and it's irritating to me because they've been around 5, 6, 7 years, and I'm thinking, wow, go 35 and we'll see if you don't have some ups and downs, some ebbs and flows. I mean, come on, cut me some slack here, I just
recorded with Dave Kalick, and the topic was, and I'm about to go to Haley here, but the topic was those in between periods, like the after your post cycle, that period of time when you're really not on anything. You can't push the food as hard. The weights aren't going up as easily as they used to. It's not as exciting, but it's those times Dave and I were saying you get through that stuff. And that's really the foundation, so that when things are going good, you can push that much harder, right?
Exactly.
All right. I'm going to see if I can add in Haley Delph. She's getting ready to head over to a massage, life of a pro, I guess. But she's gonna make a minute here to talk with us and ask us a question. Let's see what she's got. Hey, all right. We've got IFBB Pro Haley Delph with us. Haley, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you guys?
Good.
Awesome.
Good. I've got Skip Hill with me here, and I've got S2H.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey guys, nice to talk to you finally.
Yeah.
Nice to hear from you.
So you're gonna start your own show, by the way, right? We've already got this in the works. I'm acting like I don't really know, and I'm asking you, but I do know this.
Yes.
Then this is with your husband Ryan, right?
Yeah, my husband Ryan and I. New show on Advices called The Come Up.
Yes. And this is not just a plug for your new show. You actually had a question for us.
I do.
What?
Yeah, both of them.
Yeah. I don't even know what this is, so I'm excited to hear.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want me to start with the question?
Yeah.
Okay. So VJ has been my coach now for about 3 years. And after I turned pro, I was finally able to convince him to let me go to the dark side and not stay natty anymore. So when I did that, we tried Anavar first, and just a little bit of like a backstory on me and my blood panels. I have genetically very high DHT levels, like super high. Even when I was completely natural, they were like full-grown man levels. So as I'm not natural anymore, they've even got increasingly higher. So I was wondering if you guys have had any experience with this, because when I tried VAR, and it was just a very low dose, and I know it was real because it was from my doctor, I had crazy side effects, like extreme water retention. I couldn't feel any of my limbs. Just pretty much anything that could go badly went badly. And I was thankful that VJ was able to catch it right away so that it didn't cause any harm to me. But I was wondering if you guys had any experience like that with females responding so badly to VAR or any other DHT derivatives, especially if they were in the same boat as me with naturally very high DHT to begin with.
Who wants to jump in on this one first? Because I've seen this before, and I know we've talked about it a little bit, but I've seen women take Anavar and then blow up. And if you go to the message boards, the first thing you see is people say, "Oh, it was fake VAR."
Right.
Right,
Yeah. That's typically the response. And the truth is, I'll admit that first couple times it happened with clients or with someone that I knew, I thought the same thing. It's just kind of the go-to. It's like, well, it shouldn't happen, so it has to be another compound. And to kind of defend that response a little bit, it's very common as well, because Anavar is more difficult to get a hold of, real Anavar, and it's expensive.
Sure.
So you do have sources, it's very common, that will sell people anything from D-ball to, I've even seen women get Anadrol thinking that it was Anavar. Yeah. So at the same time, I have had clients with that. I can think of one of my clients from upstate New York. And it's funny because I've worked with her for a long time. She's also a friend. And I have run the gamut with her from my initial response being, yeah, you just got bad, you get something else, to you clearly have a problem with Anavar. Like you're different. And then to see a couple other people respond. I don't think it's common, but it does happen enough that I've had a few women respond that way in the last, 3-4 years. So Scott, I'm sure you've seen the same thing, right?
Yeah. Excuse me. I was drinking a thing of water. Yeah. I've seen it happen. Was it in relation to knowing they had high DHT levels already? I would say probably most of the time not.
Right.
Knowing that from the outside at first, possibly. Have you tried Andriol at all?
No, I haven't.
I think that might be the route to go.
Okay.
That's not the most common supplement out there, but that might. I think if you go like Win or something like that, Provider for sure, it's probably gonna be worse.
Mm-hmm.
If the DHT, go ahead.
had the same reaction to Winnie too, and that was even a smaller dosage. Yeah, it was the same reaction, same thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've seen that be something that worked out for someone with this similar issue. Now, that person at the time, we weren't aware that her DHT levels were already kind of elevated. You know, I mean, do you take anything for the DHT elevation?
I supplement really high saw palmetto, and that seems to work okay, just to keep like the side effects of the DHT in check.
But nothing pharmaceutical.
No, I don't. I did ask VJ about finasteride. Maybe I can ask you guys about that. So I've heard people using that to control it, but he didn't know, or anybody really knew about women using that. Have you guys heard of that before?
Yeah, I mean, it's fused. I mean, the thing is that I would be giving you like a really blanket, not a fair amount of feedback, because there's a lot of things that come into that, like with other blood, other things that are going on hormonally and different things. So it's kind of hard to, I mean, you could talk to him about it. It's a possibility. I don't really like to use it.
Right.
But I think if that, or, there's some other, a lot of times that too with women, just like certain supplements, just, AAS still don't do well with them. And you can look at your DHT levels being naturally high and say that's got to be it. But it could be some other issues in there too, where your body fat level's at, how menstrual cycles are regulated and different, there's a lot of things to play there that you have to look at. And I'm sure he's looked at those to a pretty good degree, but sometimes you just get lucky and find something that works better than another. And there's really not a pharmaceutical or some type of like, wow, this stood out as why I should be able to use this and not have an issue compared to something else. There is a little bit of that to it. But if I would say if Anavar is causing you problems, then pretty much anything down the standard line of AAS and that, Winstrol, like you said, you had a problem with, Proviron's probably, you would think Proviron would be worse because you have elevated DHT levels, but it could be something to look at too if you haven't. But I think Androl would probably would be good, or why is it slipping my mind? We just talked about it the last show. Austerin, possibly something go that route. But
Austerine, like is that S4? Is that what that is?
It's not, but it has a similar.
Okay.
It's similar in that. Yeah, you could just blanket it like that, but I'm sure with you wanting to be, I don't know. I'm just assuming, but if you want to try different things, I mean, there's a lot of things involved in it, and I guess y'all just have to look at it. And you might. I'll tell you this. I had a lady that would blow up on Anavar, Winstrol, all of them. She took what did she take? Propionate, or is it tip or something like that, and it worked fine.
Thank you. Had the same situation here as well.
I'm actually in the same boat too. So VJ and I went down that road, and testosterone in my body jive really well. I barely have any side effects, and it works.
Rocket. Hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
Right on.
Because some of these things you just can't explain. Skip, what do you think? Sometimes you just don't know.
Yeah, and that's funny that you say it, because I'm thinking the same thing for the last couple of minutes while you're talking. It just sometimes is so different with women because it may seem obvious, I guess, but some women, there's just at least no on the surface rhyme or reason sometimes why they just don't not only not respond well to a compound, but have such almost ridiculous sides. And then you can change the compound. I don't think that I see that anywhere near to the degree with guys. Yeah, they could respond differently to things, and we're all going to blow up on DECA and not as much on other compounds. But with women, sometimes it's really kind of just a crapshoot. It's like a hit or miss, and you're just kind of, God, it sounds bad, but you're just rolling the dice. It's like, well, that one didn't work very well. We could sit here and try to figure it out for the next 2 years. And, unfortunately, there's just not, and I hear clients tell me this all the time, and it's so true, female clients. They just want more female-based information about experience and usage and side effects with AAS, and it's not out there. I mean, even if you try to Google it, and scour the internet. There is not a lot of information out there that's firsthand and reliable.
Mm-hmm.
So it's difficult, you know. It really is. It's difficult, but it is. It sometimes seems like just a giant crapshoot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And kind of a weird trend too. I've noticed. I have PCOS too, runs in my family, and a few of my friends have kind of had the same issues with DHTs that also have PCOS. So I didn't know if that was linked, or maybe it was just all of us kind of have that in common. Anyways.
Could be. Yeah. I mean, it's I'm sure you know through your. I mean, I don't. If you have other friends that compete and are females, I'm sure you know that it's like, okay, Susie Q uses this and has no problem, but Kathy H can't do it, and it can be very. But like you said, there could be some combining factors that everyone has that has a negative reaction to something. I mean, my only advice, and I'm sure your coach VJ's, I know he's a smart guy. If something's not working well, get the hell away from it.
Right.
Because a lot of those sides aren't reversible.
Versus trying to figure it out and force it. Yeah. You said that you found testosterone to wait. There you go. Like Scott was saying, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Ride that train as long as you can.
For sure. I'm lucky to have VJ for sure, but a lot of my friends that do compete, it's like they go through the same thing and their coach has no fucking clue that they're getting hurt from that compound.
Yeah.
So it's pretty crazy.
I think from a female standpoint, when you hire a coach, especially as a guy, you need to not only know your own, risk levels you're willing to take, but what is that coach's risk level?
Yeah.
What is his comfort level and his willingness to maybe think that his medium risk level may be your extremely high risk level.
You know what, though? I want to say something to the contrary. There's women out there that have pushed themselves really hard, and they're willing to push another female just as hard, giving them that real blanket answer of like, well, this is just the way it is if you want to play this game.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's probably not the answer you want to hear.
Yeah.
But I know it depends on the person. Everyone's different. It's their
For
own
sure.
So.
Good question, Haley. So what do you got going on today?
Well, my day's pretty close to over. I'm going to get a massage here in about 20 minutes, and I've worked a full day and trained quads earlier. So, yeah, shutting down here pretty early today.
God, it's like 1:30. It's like 12:30 Central Time, and she's shutting her day down. What are we doing wrong here, guys? What are we doing wrong?
My day's shut down, so I don't know.
It's not usually like that. I just kind of, packed everything into the beginning today so I could just relax after I get a massage.
Right on. Well, we're all going to look forward to the new show. What's the name of it again?
The Come Up, and we're going to be featuring up-and-coming NPC, IFBB athletes, especially on the female side, to give them a platform to tell their story and show what it's like to be a woman that really lives this lifestyle.
Fuck yeah. I like that.
Very cool.
Cool.
All right. Well, we will be hearing from you soon then.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Yeah,
Take care.
Thanks. Take care.
Thanks. Bye.
All right. Cool. I'm going to go over to the message board to find our next questions. Man, that was fun. I think this is going to be a good show too.
Yeah.
Look, you were saying, what's Kim?
Just probably kind of middle of the road.
I brought up Andrew and Skip got bored. He's like, oh my God.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm just going to let Scott talk.
What is Andreol, Scott?
It's the oral. It's a pretty weak oral. It's just take Anavar's ratio or Anavar's strengths and kind of cut them down in half.
Really?
Yeah, I mean that's just like I said, it's kind of a blanket general way of saying it, but yes.
What do you think of? I've heard of females using oral primo.
I'm only concern there would be along like with the proviron side of it would be if she has high natural DHT levels. I don't know. I mean, it could work for her. I mean, I think one of the things they got to be careful about. I'll just say this real quick again. If everything's being based off of her high natural DHT levels, mm-hmm. you got to look elsewhere too. There could be another reason behind why things are happening the way they are. I mean that could be the problem, but it could be something else.
Yeah. All right. So this is from John Miller. over at the board. So you can either go directly to forum.advicesradio.com. In the bodybuilding section, there is threads stickied at the top that we're in the blood, sweat, and gear thread, or you can just go to advicesradio.com and click on the forum button. It'll take you to the same general direction. Hey guys, love the show. 34-year-old male, 5 foot 8 inches tall, 195 pounds. I took training seriously when I was younger, up into the time I was 28. Took a few years off due to herniated discs. My back feels great now, and I'm back to training 5 to 7 days a week. Oh, that's a lot of training. I have done a few cycles in my early 20s, but I've not touched gear in years. I've been on Propecia at 1 milligram a day for 10 years for hair loss. My hair looks great. I've noticed that I've been easily gaining size, but I've been having a hard time cutting fat. I am around 23% body fat. I have a few questions. Do you think that the finasteride is stopping me from losing fat? Scott?
I got to go first.
Oh.
Nope, I got to go first.
Okay.
I'll tell you why. Because I'm going to have to push it to Scott. And I'm going to state the obvious reason.
Okay.
I have been bald since I was 21.
Okay.
And I know some people might be thinking, well, that's not a very good excuse. But my excuse is because I have not had to deal with it personally. So I don't have very much experience with it personally. And when I don't have experience with something hands-on myself, to be able to give, I don't know, a very good opinion as to how, either I responded to it or other people responded to it after I did. I'm not terribly comfortable with that. And I also think too, and I don't know if Scott will back me up on this, but finasteride was kind of a, kind of a 80s and 90s type of drug. It fell off considerably later in the 90s. Didn't you see the same? Because I have very few clients over the last probably 10 years who have used it. Do you feel the same way, Scott, or no?
Because it sucks. That's why.
Thank you. There are negatives there, okay? So, I don't know. And like I said, I don't have that firsthand. I was losing my hair naturally at 20, 21 years old, and I just decided, fuck it, I'm going to shave it. So I don't know too much about, I don't have a lot of experience with it, I guess is my point. So that's why I was going to go first so I could push it to Scott.
Take a triangle, and one end of the point put testosterone, and one put DHT, and another put estrogen. Okay, those are the three things you're getting. When you take Propecia, you get rid of the DHT, so what goes up? Probably not at his age, the testosterone much, a little bit some, but what goes up the most is the estrogen. And, he could, I don't know his diet and do everything he's doing, but that's not a good thing. So I don't, you can have full hair, or you can, maximize your hormones and everything you're doing. But I've never seen where Propecia finasteride is beneficial to building a physique. Some guys have used that, I don't know, what's that shampoo? And I don't even know what the hell's in it all.
Nazoral shampoo?
Yeah.
The topical, yeah.
I use that. I've got the 2%. I've had a prescription for it for 5 years. Couldn't tell you whether it helps or not, but I've been using it and I have some hair left.
Well, I think it's part of the reason that finasteride fell out of popularity was because the topical, because it's right there to affect the follicles, you didn't need to take it orally anymore to fuck up your gains and potentially condition, that sort of thing. I mean, the poster, or not the poster, but the caller's original question basically asking, hey, will finasteride impact my condition and my body fat levels? I can't say from experience that it does, but I can certainly see on paper that that's very logical. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, it could. I mean, and everyone converts things, everything differently in their body, but it definitely could be a play. I mean, the guy's gotten older too, so his metabolism's probably slowed down. His growth hormone pulsing output is slowed down. So I don't like Propecia. I don't see any upside to it unless you just can't live, unless you just feel like your hair is going to fall out and you can't live with the horseshoe or the bald or whatever.
But would the topical have the same impact? I mean, I understand clearly, it's going to get into the bloodstream. At the same time, I'm going to guess that it's a substantially lower amount that ends up in the bloodstream. I mean, is that just completely not logical?
Well, no, I mean, I think the one like Scott said he's using is different. I mean, it has to do with a more localized growth. I'm not an SME for sure on the shampoo. There was an older one that I think was not as good as the newer one they make now. But,
Are you talking about like Rogaine?
No, what was the other one they used to have? I think it had a similar name to the one you're using, but the compounds were different in it when they first made it. So I'm talking like decade ago or whenever it first came out. More than that, maybe. Yeah, but I will say that Propecia finasteride is not a good. If you want to build a physique, there's one thing right there that's not going to work out well for most people. And because, I mean, elevated estrogen, and yeah, could you counter that? But you're also, if you're not having DHT conversion, you need DHT also. So you're leaving something out of the equation. I just don't care for it. I've never seen it to be something that's been anything positive for sure.
And on the other hand, I have to give guys a little bit of credit when, they say that their hair is very important. Yeah, I've had people say, I just absolutely will not risk losing my hair. I don't have that kind of connection to my hair, so I can't relate to that. I can respect the fact that some people think it's that important. That's cool. If you want to give up, you want to give up some gains and stuff to keep your head of hair because you feel it makes you look better and look younger, more power to you. I don't have that connection, so it's very easy for me to go, what the fuck? Why would you even really care? And maybe that's more of the reason that there are so many bald steroid using meatheads. I'm not sure. They just figure I'm not going to fight it. Fuck it.
Yeah, and I got to get a haircut every 10 days.
I'm seeing a couple other products. I did a search for hair loss shampoos. And of course, as you can imagine, Google like exploded, when I hit the search button on that. But I'm seeing a link that's kind of just breaking down like the top 5 best products that are out there, and the Nizoral is in there. And it says, but they give it a 4. It says fights dandruff and hair loss, reduces hair follicle inflammation, blocks androgen receptors to deter hair loss. So I know that the key is they have the 1%, which is available over the counter. I get the 2%, which that's the one that the clinical studies were done on. I don't know if they actually tested the 1% for that stuff, but there are a couple other things that look like they could be super beneficial that reduce DHT.
You can also use equine shampoo they use for show horses.
Yeah?
Yeah, it works great. I mean, a lot of women use it down here. I mean, because that stuff does wonders to your hair.
No kidding.
You have to get the really, there's a couple of brands of it. I don't remember the top of my head. Actually, I've got a bottle of it somewhere, but
I think it's just Equipoise. You just rub Equipoise all over your head.
It could be.
Yeah.
It could be just like EQ bath. It's an equine shampoo. You get them like feeds, like really good feed stores and stuff have them. So they work real good.
He had another question in there. So he asked about the fat loss. He says, do you think being on Propecia will prevent me from getting results out of a cycle of Anavar or Winstrol? Or would it help with a cut? Now, Scott, tell me if I'm right about this, but it does not work on other steroids the way it does on testosterone, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it would affect it. It wouldn't make, as far as using the Winstrol Anavar, I don't see where it's going to make a difference, with what's happening now. But I mean, I don't know. I don't really think taking some oral Winnie is like the I'm just going to get lean. That sounds like like we were talking something 20 years ago. Like, I need to get lean, give me some Winnie.
Yeah.
It doesn't really work that way. How about I just tighten up your diet, and if you're going to leave the Propecia, I would look at your training, your diet, and I don't think Anavar, a little Winstrol, is really going to do anything anyway, Propecia or not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, I get what you're saying too, Skip, about hair being important to people. You know what? I remember when I was like 8 years old, and my dad is super, super bald. And when I was like 8 years old, he was super bald. And I was terrified from that moment forward. Like, wait a second. Am I going to look like that one day? And at the time, he did something different, though. He should have shaved his head, but he did the comb over.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that was very, very fashionable in the 80s, late 70s into the 80s.
Until the wind
and
blew.
that's when I grew up. Yeah, exactly. And I think, too, I can understand it from a kid's standpoint because then being bald would equate to being old.
Yeah.
So I can completely get wanting to avoid that. It's funny, though, because bald wasn't an issue. The timing for me growing up and being a teenager in the 80s, I didn't have a lot of like older people around me and parents and things like that who were bald. I had the comb over. So to me, it was a no-brainer. I'm like, fuck this. And you always have the, what's the McGraw country singer? I always want to say
Tim McGraw.
Yeah, I always want to say Tug because I was a baseball fan and I remembered his dad. Yeah, his dad growing up, as a pitcher. But yeah, Tim McGraw is a good example. You can also go the route of just wearing a hat all the time. But then the one time you take off your hat, everybody's realizes, and it's such a big deal. My God, that motherfucker's bald.
Yeah.
Versus if everybody just knew that, but you're always wearing a hat, so they don't know any better. So my thing was, I just didn't. That comb over scared me.
Yeah.
Like being bald scared you.
I could see that. Yeah.
Oh,
Did you really have a comb over?
I didn't have a comb. My dad. Well, I don't know if my
I
dad.
thought you had one.
But older people at that time. Well, the reason I never had one was because at like 20, I want to say it was. It might have been 20, but if not 20, it was 21. I just shaved my head. And I got to tell you, that's like 90, 91. It wasn't cool. It wasn't like this fashion statement for dudes to be bald. No. Michael Jordan, I don't even know if Jordan was bald by 90. If he was, it was barely. Let's see. He was at North Carolina until about 90. And I don't think he was bald when he played for the Tar Heels. I don't think he was bald until he got to the NFL or NBA. So I would say he may not have been bald at that time. So it was not very cool. I think that, and I don't want to get into the history and evolution of baldness, but from a male standpoint, it was not cool until, and I think Michael Jordan started shifting it. Once he was bald for a couple years, then it was kind of cool. Like it was like, all right, maybe this, maybe we can. But then you had the white dudes shaving their head, and then they'd have that like 5 o'clock shadow all over their fucking head, and they just look like some kind of like white supremacist or something.
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, and just black. Like it's like you got a full head of hair. What the fuck are you shaving your head for? Either that or get a tan, because otherwise we can see it. Like you're full Italian or Greek, and so you're really fair skinned and you got really dark hair, and you're shaving an entire fully good head of hair. That makes no sense. That's illogical.
What about the spray? Have you guys seen that? I know one guy in the bodybuilding industry that uses spray hair. And
I remember when it was in its early stages and it was bad. It might as well have been. It was basically the equivalent, because people wouldn't know now unless they were old like we. But it was the equivalent of that rubber shit that you spray. They spray on the bottom of the boat in the commercial.
Yeah. And
then they ride that boat and they go, whatever the fuck it's called. I don't even know what it's called.
Was it like a chia pet or something on your head?
No, it was like spray on liquid mascara is about the best way to explain it.
What it does, Scott, is it colors your scalp so that your scalp doesn't show through, and then it makes your hair look fuller.
What was the name of it?
Oh, I don't know. I know one guy that I think uses it, and he dyes his hair jet black too.
We don't do that down here.
No, God, no. You just go natural down there, and like going bald is just part of being a man.
And the hair dye thing is funny too. I mean, let's be honest. If all of us, and guys don't understand this, it's like people know you based on like, the color of your hair and stuff. All of a sudden you dye your hair like fucking black, you just reminded everybody right there, because for the next 3 months that they see you, they're not buying into your new look. No. They're still programmed. So they're like programmed as to how you've looked for so long that they're reminded daily for the first 3 months that you are covered. You have all these issues with the color of the hair on your face or head, because people do it with their goatees and mustaches and everything else too. There is that adjusting period where you have to continue to do that for a long time before it kind of reprograms people's brains and they accept that that's the way you look normally.
That's true.
So be prepared if you're going to do that.
Yeah.
It's like them. It's like those trendy pop country singers that for the last 15 or 20 years, they wear the same color shirt, the same facial hair, the same hair, the same hat everywhere. It's like, dude, do you own any other clothes?
Right.
But
they
that's
wore
what makes
something
them
else you wouldn't
identifiable.
recognize.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I found some of that. I tried that. It's like a gray reducing shampoo because I'm starting to get on the sides. I'm getting a lot more grays now. And you would think that wouldn't happen if you were running growth hormone. But guess what? It doesn't do anything.
No.
And I keep forgetting to keep up with the shampoo because it has like a really strong, like Old Spice smell to it. So I'm just gonna chuck the idea. But I'll move on here. We got another question. We have another caller. But we also we've got a guy who we've got a call in here who had a question for us about TRT and about the variations between doing like an everyday administration, which would be like a gel or a cream, versus something like a shot, which you could do either every week or every other week or twice a week, whatever. He wanted to talk about the pros and the cons of the different types of TRT that's out there. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to play his clip right now, and then after that, we can dive in and tackle the topic. Here we go.
Hey guys, this is Josh. You might know me from the forums as Madam McVeyrod. Appreciate you having me on the show today. My question is based around TRT dosing frequency. I've been on doctor-prescribed TRT for a little over 5 years now. I've done the weekly protocol as well as the biweekly, and more recently went to the daily administering. And I guess what really kind of got my mind going was on a recent episode of Drugs and Stuff, Dave Crossland had talked about it being kind of more advantageous to go with just a weekly approach versus daily, how hormones work in peaks and troughs, and by having a consistent baseline with your testosterone administration, over time could do things like raise E2 as well as your levels and some other potential negative side effects, which he didn't go too far into. But I guess this has really kind of got my mind going, as I'd always kind of thought, anything that, kind of keeps the body systems more in balance would be advantageous, just keeping homeostasis in check versus, any kind of swing. So wanted to kick it around, see what you guys thought, any kind of feedback you may have from personal experience with those of clients, and if you would agree with Dave, or you may have some other kind of opinion to add to this topic.
All right, so which one of you guys wants to handle this one first? We've got TRT of all sorts nowadays. I think that he didn't bring this up. They've even got pellets now. What are the pros and the cons of the different TRTs that are out there? I mean, Scott, I know you are a fan of just your standard test sip, right?
Yeah, but I've tried them all. I mean, I did the gel thing back, a long time ago. When I first got on TRT, I think that was the first thing they gave me. And then there was a period like when that stuff you put in your armpit, Axiron, came out, that I dicked around with that stuff and other newer gels just to see how my levels would be. And I honestly thought, I think I could drown myself in a bathtub full of that shit and not get enough out of it, not get the same levels out of it than 1 cc of 200 milligrams cypionate. Yeah, it was just very inconsistent.
You put it in your armpits?
Yeah, they made one called Axiron. You put it in your armpits like a deodorant. And they made that one because people were complaining, or they were using the old adage of, "Hey doc, I can't put the gel on because my 6-year-old is going to grow a beard, or whatever."
Yeah.
When I touch them, which is true, it could happen. I mean, that probably could happen. But I mean, so some pharmaceutical company that wanted to make billions and off everybody decided to make one called Axiron, which you put in your armpits. Which I guess you could put the regular gel in your armpits too. I don't know, but it was kind of smelled. It had like a, I don't know. It was like a lick. It was like a the deodorant is kind of clear and jelly.
And you tried that?
Yeah, I just told my doctor one time. I said, "Let me try this." I don't know. I talked him into it, and stuff sucked. It was. I couldn't get anything out of gels. Nowhere near. So what they were saying, I don't remember the exact ounces, because it goes in ounces normally, that you had to apply to get, what it was supposed to give you in testosterone level. Supposed to elevate your levels to, but I didn't get anything close to it. I mean, obviously you have, you know, it's a topical, it's transdermal, so they're using DMSO to deliver it most likely. The one that I got was a compound, so I could read everything that was in it. A couple of the other ones I got, you had to go on their website and look it up, and they like to use like really confusing pharmaceutical terms, like different names for things. So you have to like look them up and figure out what the hell's in there. And but I thought overall they all kind of just fucking sucked, to be honest with you. The pellets are pretty popular with females. I'd say with males, you kind of have you're going to get some, you know, testosterone is not the primary hormone in women, so any testosterone is quite an uplift for them. Smaller amounts in males, I've seen where that you know, you don't get you don't get the what they're equating in the pellet form to give you what, say, 100 milligrams a week of cypionate will give you. It just doesn't happen. And also you got pellets stuck in you. It's not like you can just take it out.
Yeah.
So if you start having problems with it, let's say you start to aromatize to estrogen at a high rate, or you need to get it out, it's not like you can go, hey, honey, can you pull my pellet out? No, you got to go get it taken out. And that's a preferred method, I think, what I see with people that don't want to inject themselves and also don't want to go to the office every 2 weeks or whatever the doctor prescribes to get an injection, or they don't like needles.
Yeah, I think I was thinking of the same thing when you first started speaking, and with the difference between all of the methods, I think you have a broad array of people who, you know, some are, I think the large majority are probably not cool with needles. Obviously, in the industry, you know, TRT is a little bit different than the mainstream public. Mainstream public, I think, would rather deal with the gel. It just would probably seem far more practical, far more convenient.
Yeah.
Yet it's funny because someone who is comfortable with needles, based on the fact that I'm a diabetic, would be an abusive melanotan user. It seems to me it would be inconvenient because it's every day. It's kind of, I don't know, lotion. What do I want to put lotion on for? And, you know, I start thinking of other weird shit. Like, I use Nivea lotion. Well, how am I going to use this lotion? It's not going to keep my skin very supple, and, you know, I'm going to be ashy.
It's so funny you say that too, Skip, because
Ashy.
I didn't even think of that. The fact that like people wouldn't want to use a needle to take their medication, like that didn't even register to me whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest, or was the biggest draw for the cream to begin with, because I think seriously the TRT industry at that time when they first started was probably like, okay, they probably sat down in a room and went, okay, how do we get middle-aged men? First, we can't call them steroids. We have to call this TRT or HR, because it was actually HRT to begin with. They were even avoiding, excuse me, the term testosterone on purpose, because they didn't want to say steroid, because we all know people died from steroids in the 80s. And remember, you know, it was in the 80s, the late 80s, that the steroid scare started to take over, death in the locker room and things like that. So the TRT age, the demographic, that we were teenagers in the 80s when this Reagan brain on drugs, steroids are going to kill you, you know, the body count is going to be massive. That era was happening. So they had to avoid the term testosterone and the term steroid. So how are we, you know, they're probably sitting in a room going, how are we going to get through? We can't call it testosterone. We can't call it steroids. And we certainly can't ask them to use a needle, because that's not going to fucking work either. And somebody had to come up with, and I think you touched on it too, Scott, is, you know, the DMSO. They actually aren't using DMSO because it's fucking terribly stinky. I think that's more, but I think your point was more, it's a topical delivery system. I think they were using something similar to Flowgel because it didn't have that stinky DMSO. It's funny because DMSO, and maybe you guys don't look at it the same way. To me, DMSO is kind of about as antiquated and like bathtub-ish as creating FINA from pellets and having to like, you know, sift it through a coffee. It's just so bougie. It's so bourgeois. I don't know. It's so like dirty, and the stuff fucking stinks. It's like, it's like a bodybuilder mentality. Well, how do we get this in our bloodstream? Well, this is the only thing I can think of, but it's a byproduct of paper manufacturing and it smells like shit. Oh, fuck it. We'll use it then. It works. What the
Yeah, if
hell?
it
We don't
works,
really care.
who cares?
Hey,
we don't really give a shit.
I put equine DMSO on my back all the time. It doesn't smell, or at least no one tells me it does.
Well, you're growing a tail too. I don't know if you noticed that or not.
At least I got hair.
Hey, speaking of tails, it's a little. I'm not going to do it. I can't do it.
Do it. Just do it. Do it.
Okay, I'm going to do it. I did not know, and this is going to make me potentially sound old to the younger people. I did not know this. And my wife is going to beat my ass for this, but she doesn't listen to the shows anymore, so she can kiss my ass.
I have no idea where this is going. I'm scared.
Okay. I took her shoe shopping yesterday, and I thought she'd fight me on it. She spent a ton of money. She needed good shoes for work, and she caved. On the way home, she had spent a shit ton of money, okay? And I was happy for her. On the way home, she's like, you know what? We said we were going to stop by the toy store. I'm like, oh, hell yeah. Okay, I'm down with that. Yeah, we'll stop by the toy store on the way home, right? Now, we're in the toy store, and I noticed something that I have not seen before. And like I said, this baby,
you're not talking about Toys R Us, are you?
No,
I am not talking about Toys R Us.
Okay, I'm with you then. I'm with you.
So, and I think some of you might be putting it together, but this is what I saw. I'm looking and I'm thinking to myself, why is this? There is like this tail. It's like a fucking hairy tail attached to a butt plug.
I've seen that.
And I'm looking up, and so this lady was like helping us, and I think it's always funny because they're just willing to they're young girls, they're like 22, 23, and they're like, just talking like they just walked out of the back. Like they're going to take the vibrator and just like test it for you in front of you to be and talk about it like it's normal. Like, oh, and then you do this, and then you put this part in your butt. And like, it's just like, this is what you do every day. Like, this is really comfortable to you. Okay, I'm cool with that.
Yeah, they're totally desensitized because that's all they talk about all day.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then you put it here, and then you can rub here, and then if you want to do this to her, well, I'm like, I don't know if I need coaching, but thanks, I appreciate you. I appreciate you. So I make a comment, and I shouldn't have.
Oh shit.
Sometimes like when you say something, you wish you could take it back because you think you're so funny, right? So I see this tail, and I'm giggling, and the girl said, she goes, what? And she smiled. She goes, what's so funny? I'm like, oh, I said, this tail thing. I don't know. And she went straight faced. She's like, oh, she goes, that is a very popular fetish thing right now because of My Little Pony and I'm trying not to fucking laugh, but I see how serious she is. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, bitch, you walk around with one of these in your ass and it's like this little game you play. And then I'm like, oh my God, like number one, I don't give a shit. That's totally cool. I just didn't know that was a thing. So I felt so old. I'm like, oh my God. Like I'm offending her because I'm pretty sure she was offended by me thinking it was funny or weird. So I mean, I could see it on her face. So she points over here. She's like, oh, come here for a minute. She showed me the glass case. There are all these colors. The one was the My Little Pony. It was like basically the rainbow in our logo.
Oh, really?
Oh my God, we gotta get rid of that logo now for sure.
Huh? We should get those and get like Blood, Sweat, and Gear put on them somewhere and sell them. We could give them away at the Arnold.
I quit.
That's what we could do.
We need a booth at the Arnold to give away My Little Pony / BSG
/ best bar ever.
Tails. Yes, best bar ever. Exactly.
Best butt plug
best
ever.
bar ever / True Protein.
I like
True Nutrition. I still say True Protein.
That's
Anyway,
because you're old school.
So
You're
did you
hardcore.
buy one, Skip?
No,
what
but I
color?
tell you, here's the funny part. Okay, I was so against it for like 3 minutes. And I start thinking to myself, and I'm sorry, I'm just being too transparent. I'm thinking to myself, I'm picturing myself standing there naked with a fucking tail hanging off my fucking glutes. And I kind of shake my head. I'm like, ooh, that's like, ooh. But I thought about it. I'm like, no.
Your catcher days. Yeah.
Yeah, I had this visual, and then I just shook my head. I'm like, I can't do it. I didn't even go to, I didn't think like my wife, which would be the normal.
Right.
You know, like, I wonder what my wife like. I'm thinking, what would I look like with this colored fucking tail hanging out between my fucking glutes?
Well, at least you didn't think of one of us.
And I will say, so that my wife doesn't get mad, we did not leave with a tail. She spent some money. But not as much as she did on shoes.
I'm gonna pull up our next caller here. He won't know
Sorry,
what we
folks,
were
for all
talking
that.
about. Yeah, we're not gonna tell him what we were talking about here.
That's probably good. Yeah.
I
I might know my wife.
Hello?
Hey, is this Daniel?
Oh, yes.
What's up, man? This is Scott from Blood, Sweat, and Gear. I'm with S2H and Skip Hill. Meet the guys.
Hey, what's
Is
up,
this
man?
Daniel, my brother?
No,
A good friend of mine? Oh, no one's going to get that
I've
reference.
only heard like, people say that song to me, and I've never heard it.
Oh, damn. I'm sure you probably have heard that over and over the more I think about it.
I have no idea what you guys are talking about right now.
Never even heard the song.
Me neither.
What's going on, man?
Not much right now. About to prep some chicken.
Sounds about right for a bodybuilder midday or any time of day, right?
Yeah.
Where are you calling us from?
I'm calling you from Orlando, Florida.
Nice. Not too far from you, right, Skip?
Not too far. Not too far.
All right. So I put out a thread, guys, over on actually I just put it out on stories at the Added Vices Radio Network Instagram page, as well as my own Instagram page at Scott McNally 1. And I said, hey guys, we need callers. So do you go by Daniel or do you go by Dan?
Daniel.
Okay, then we're gonna stick with the formal Daniel. What's up, Daniel?
Yeah.
What's your question for us, brother?
My main question is, like, I've been, lifting and training for 19 years now. But I've been specifically bodybuilding for 3. Like when I was prepping for my first competition, and I learned how much I had been under eating and overtraining, basically for the majority of the time that I had been lifting the weights. So in the last 3 years, I gained about 12 pounds of stage weight, and I came up best peak condition this past nationals, and I placed 15th. And I'm trying to reach the pro level without gear, if that's possible. And that's my question: is that possible? Keep hearing that if I make significant gains with the gear and then I stop, and it'll basically all just go away. And not just that, I'll lose gains that I had before I was on the gear.
What division? Bodybuilding? Physique?
Class.
Classic.
All right, and listen, before you say anything, Skip, I'm sending you guys his picture right now. I pulled one of his shots off of Instagram. He's got a good physique. How much do you weigh, Daniel?
Right now I'm about 225. I'm on stage, or before our weigh-ins, I think the most I weighed was 212, or no, 210. I have to weigh 212.
Okay, so 212 is your limit. And how tall are you?
I'm 5'11".
5'11". Okay, so did you guys get that picture yet?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's
I
got
got my
some
glasses on.
he's got some good muscle on him, and you've got some good shape too, Daniel. I think that this is one of those questions. It's going to be different for everybody, right, Skip?
Yeah, absolutely. I tell you, my answer is very easy. Looking at his physique, I understand it's only one picture, but even based on, I would have given the same answer based on just his information. My response is actually very easy. I would say not only can you do it, but I would encourage you to do it, to stay natural and see if you can get there natural. And I'll tell you why, because it's one of those situations where if you continue naturally, you're going to know whether you can get there without gear or not. You're going to know definitively. And then if you can't, you can then make that decision, and then you won't have any regrets. If you go and make that decision now to cross over, you're going to always wonder, in my opinion, I guess is what I'm saying. I would always wonder, God, maybe I could have gotten here. Like, okay, my gains were pretty good, because you just admitted yourself. The information you gave was, yeah, okay, I've trained for quite a while, but I've really buckled down on this bodybuilding thing for the last 3 years. And I noticed, okay, I was overtraining. I was doing some things wrong, which most all of us do. I mean, shit, I can relate to the overtraining and that sort of thing early on. So if you're doing everything right, and you've only been doing things right for, a few years, continue to do things right. Pay attention to the details, and I wouldn't be the least bit surprised to see you get there based on the information you gave and that picture.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I started, when I started lifting weights when I was 15, my coach was I think he was in his late 50s or early 60s. And, he'd been training longer. He'd been training for 40 years or something like that. So he taught me proper way and stuff like that just before I started playing sports. So I've always been, really strict on form and everything, but I always lifted for just strength, not necessarily hypertrophy and getting bigger,
Right.
Yeah. What were you
And,
going to say, Scott?
it's always cool to have that kind of instruction early on, too. I'm sure you see the value in that, but I think a lot of people out there who don't get that, unfortunately, they don't understand that oh, my God, it can just save so much time. But go ahead, Scott. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say when he said that he wanted to turn pro naturally and even in physique, at first you're always like, oh, okay. And then I sent over the picture, and I mean, you're obviously like really genetically gifted. And I would say this, if you probably did use AAS, you'd probably get too big for what you want to do. That's what I see. I would be very concerned that you'd be like 250 in a year. And you have to go into bodybuilding if you want it. I mean, if you didn't want to, if you want to stay in what you're doing, I would stay away from it. I would just run with what you got, man. You got killer physique. I mean, you got good, really, really good genetics.
Here, let me go one step further and say this too. Anybody out there listening, and I would encourage Scott, you're gonna have to put his picture up at some point when you post the podcast, because natural people who want to get their pro card. And I don't want to sound shitty or insensitive when I say this or like a dream killer, but you need to see what it looks like when there's true potential to be pro without drugs.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, I think, are disillusioned. I can appreciate that people want to go that route or stay natural and try to do it without gear. I am totally in support of that. But seeing a picture of someone who can truly do it and has the genetic potential to probably be able to do that. I mean, I can't sit here and say he's going to have a pro card, but what I can say is this guy has a much better chance than 99% of the people out there who want to do the same thing.
That means a lot.
What was this last show? I grabbed that picture where you're hitting kind of like a tricep shot. I see NPC on the stage, but I can't tell what show that is. Black backdrop.
That was Nationals in Miami this past November.
How'd you do there?
15th.
I got 15th.
Oh, 15th. You did say that. Okay.
But it was still a place.
Right.
I think my posing is probably one thing that's like held me back for classic. But I know when I first started, I was in physique, and like that was the first time I actually like ate properly and everything. And I was about 198 when I was on stage, and I was still like way bigger than everybody. I was like, I'm too big for, like, that's why I didn't advance more like in the other shows I did, but I won the overall. I think it was a John Hansen show.
Oh, okay.
And then I did 2 more shows in physique, and I just kept getting placed down because I was too big. So I went to classic, which everybody else has basically been as big as I have. I just think I got to get my posing down, I feel like, but I don't know, because some of the guys, like, I'm only going by like all of our stage shots that we end up seeing, because I can't see what the judges see, but my stage shots have been better than a lot of guys that are placing way higher than me. So I don't know. What
some of those shows you got to take with a grain of salt too. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm going to be hypercritical, I mean, this is only one shot.
Yeah.
Okay. And I've got a little background noise. Sorry about that. But I am going to say it does appear, and you guys tell me if you feel the same way. And again, it's only one shot. It does appear that his conditioning can get better. He can get tighter.
Mm-hmm. I'd agree.
So I mean, that's if you take that type of genetic potential, that structure, and that muscle shape and the muscularity, and he's just kind of getting going, really.
Yep.
And you make that conditioning that much better and tighter. I mean, oh my God, holy shit! I'll be a fan. I'll watch. I'm pulling for you. Hell.
How long did you diet for this one?
For Nationals, I dieted for 12 weeks, but all my other shows, I just dieted for 6 because I just hate dieting.
Yeah, well, we hate you. So we should throw that out there.
Get him off the line, damn it.
Yeah, the rest of the world hates Daniel right now.
No, I spend a lot of calories at work, so I'm like constantly walking, damn near running at work, bartending and serving.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So I
would just
able to
look to refine it. Yeah, look to refine it. I think you just need to, you've only been doing it for 3 years. I think you're still trying to find your, the best diet, the best approach, the best training, the best preparation. You looked a little watery too. So, I mean, maybe that's something too where you could tighten up in that at the, in your last, 7 days or coming into the show.
Yeah.
stuff. I think with you, it's like going to be like micro things you need to work on, like your posing, like you said, and not that that's super micro, but you could get more of those little micro parts of the equation down to where you can bring yourself in really, really physique wise, very lean, very dry, and then have the posing more crisp and everything. That's you're probably looking more of you're what I call like more of a micro project. You're not looking to do anything major, but refine those little things.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd agree because even with the mass he has right now in this picture, even if he was no bigger, but a little bit, few percent sharper and drier, it would still be. I mean, I think that you would definitely have gone up several places at least. I mean, I don't know what the competition looked like, but I think that alone would have been a real game changer.
Yeah, and if you do stay natural, understand this because this is important. If you stay natural and you do start to threaten for that pro card, no one's going to believe you.
Yeah. Nobody believes me now. And that's actually been one of the main motivations, like throughout the whole time I've been lifting weights. Because I started when I was 15, when I started playing football and everything. Everybody's like, "Oh, he's on steroids and blah blah," just because I would like lift intensely, and I like started to catch up with like my other teammates and stuff in size. And was like, so now I just like laugh at it. I'm like, okay, well, what am I on then? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Tell me, because I don't know.
Anybody who can't resents those who can. So it just is what it is.
Well, right on. I hope this helps you, Daniel. And we appreciate you listening, man. We appreciate you following along, and we'll be following along with you. Like the guys had suggested, I'll make sure I'm going to post, if you don't mind, I'm going to post one of your pictures up in the comments when we make our next show post for this episode.
Yeah, you can go ahead. Thank you. Appreciate the advice.
Hey, man. Good luck.
Yeah, really.
Awesome.
All right, brother. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Take care.
I would love to test that guy's myostatin because it's got to be in next to nothing.
Right.
I mean, that's, you always hear, I want to be a natural pro, and I really didn't think it was like, oh my God, no. But when you sent that picture, I'm like, that dude's a freak.
That's why I wanted you guys to see him when he said that. I was like, well, everybody, is in their own position, right? And sure, it would be ideal if everybody could turn pro naturally, but there's going to be some guys out there, guys like Daniel, who it could work. It could work for him.
Yeah. It's just funny how, our cynical reaction initially, where, Scott and I are kind of eye rolling, like, yeah, whatever. Sure you do. Everybody wants to be a natural pro, dumbass. that sort of thing. And then it's like, oh, shit, my cynicism. I mean, every now and then, sure enough, there's actually someone who's legit and has a shot at doing that. So.
Well, I actually didn't think that way, Skip. You might have.
You admitted it. I admit I did. I
definitely
did.
It was, I mean, there's people that, I'm going to say that his myostatin levels are probably really low. I mean, super low, way below normal. And, and he was honest too. He said, I gained 12 pounds in, 3 years of stage weight. I mean, that's good. And we're natural. That's really good. But that's like really, really good for a natural guy that's been lifting a long time. And, he said he had a good foundation too, which is important. So, that's a lot of it too. He trained the right way. It sounds like for many years. But I wish I looked like that. Natural or not, doesn't matter.
Right. All right. I'm going to go back over to the message board. It looks like this question is addressed to S2H. But then he adds a message to Skip and a message to me at the end. He says, this is from Special K. He says, S2H.
Okay.
I've had blood work done about 15 times in the past 4 years, and my IGF levels are always near the low end of the range. For instance, my last two readings have come back at 105 and 86 nanograms per milliliter. The reference range is 83 to 233. Okay, assuming that I'm a typical responder, where do you think 1 to 2 units of growth a day would put me at within the range? That's the first question. And second question is, people like Dr. Rhonda Patrick point out that the inverse relationship between IGF-1 levels and longevity. Also, I've heard you guys talk before that if you have bad tissue somewhere inside of you, raising IGF-1 could be like pouring gasoline on a fire. What's your take on those ideas with the limit of 1 to 2 units a day? And then he adds, Skip, I normally don't trust guys who quit chewing and walk around with cats and strollers, but I'd like to hear your opinion too. Thanks, guys. Love the show. And at the end, in parentheses, he adds, hi, Scott.
That's awesome.
So we covered all of us.
Right there. Yeah. That's awesome.
I'm going to give you like the generic, like just what it kind of happens. Take your natural level, multiply it by like 3.54. So if he's around 100, I'm going to say if he's using, pharmaceutical growth, he's using the plan I like to use every other day, load it up for 7 to 10 days and go every other day type thing. He'll probably come up in around the 4s, mid 4s. And that's just, there's nothing scientific, or that's just what I've seen. It's anecdotal. It could go higher. I mean, I've seen people go like in the 800s from those levels. But I would say he could probably expect something in the 350 to 450 range. Let's just say something like that. What was the other question?
The other question was, he said, people like Dr. Rhonda Patrick point out the inverse relationship between IGF-1 levels and longevity. Also, I've heard you guys say before that if you have bad tissue somewhere inside of you, that raising IGF-1 could be like pouring gasoline on a fire. What's your take on those ideas with the limit of 1 to 2 units a day? Mainly meaning Rhonda Patrick and Dr. Who was it? There was another doctor who I've heard talk about this. I think it was Serrano and someone else too, but I can't think of who it was. Said that IGF on its own was what I had heard. IGF on its own doesn't have the same checks and balances of IGF with growth hormone, the IGF that you produce from growth hormone, that it's more likely to cause issues, making mutating cells continue to grow instead of them dying off as they normally would in your body, thus creating cancer. Or, of course, there is the fact that if you had cancer, if you had this already happening, IGF would not help that. So I guess that's what he wants to talk a little bit about those things.
Okay, so I would say that if you currently unknowingly have cancer, increased IGF levels, yes, the gasoline on fire, or what they're saying, is definitely going to be an issue. Or I also would say if you have a history of cancer in your family, father, mother, if you're a female mother, son, either way, parents, grandparents, that type of thing, I don't particularly advocate using it. The part about I remember listening to her say that increased IGF levels from growth will cause cancer.
When she said that, she was saying using IGF-1, like IGF-1 LR3, she not with growth hormone, but on its own. That's what she was talking about. So non-relationship. Yeah, she said that independently, there's no proof, but she believes that there could be issues from what she's seen from like long-term use of that. Cells that may have died off may not die off.
Yeah, I mean, she has no proof. I know she's very well regarded. She has some really great things to say, but she got no proof of it. I mean, some people think the world is square and not round, when actually it's oblong anyway. But that's a whole other topic. But I have never seen that. I haven't seen any studies that show that. I think that, a lot of times when you get into topics like that, you have someone who has no history of cancer in their family. They've been using an IGF, either a DSLR3, a straight IGF, whatever. And they, later in life, after using it or while using it, get prostate cancer, get whatever.
Okay.
And I've never read a study that directly links the use of it to you having a cancerous growth, that it actually led to that. Now, could it? I don't know. It could. I mean, there could be a study out there I haven't read, but I read a lot of them, or have, and I don't see that correlation. I mean, it's assumptive, but it could be the truth, but it could be not. I'm more of like a facts-based person, so I've not seen that. So, it's your body. You got to make the call. But I wouldn't use it if you have that history, or you currently know you have something that's kind of not very bright.
I think Chrysler said something along the lines too with this, that him and Serrano, from what I've gathered, the idea was that if you are going to use IGF-1, LR3, to use it with growth hormone in conjunction. But I don't take my word on any of that, people. Sorry, Skip. What was that?
No, I think a lot of what Scott is saying, I have to agree with, and him and I have similar, thoughts on a lot of this anyway. But the longevity part, I just want to touch on this because the longevity versus the cancer part, I do feel that growth hormone, and I don't have a lot of experience with IGF by itself or IGF use anyway. I'm not a huge fan. I never really have been. In fact, I think Scott and both of you are probably bigger on IGF than I am. I'm just not big on the use of it. And I'm not saying because of cancer or anything else. I used it, I don't want to say quite a bit, but over the course of, I don't know, maybe a year and a half, 8-10 years ago, and just really wasn't very impressed with it. And it just kind of, I don't know, it made me fall back on my beliefs when it comes to IGF levels and getting the response that everybody wants from things like IGF and from peptides like GHRP and stuff. It all comes back to growth hormone. I've said it over, and I know it sounds kind of like a broken record and it sounds kind of boring, but or old school or just old. But I'm just a GH guy. I think GH works so well that I just don't see a reason for the IGF. Other people say that when they put that in with GH, it works great. Okay, I just didn't see that. So I don't have a lot of experience there, but I do think, and I can certainly understand that on paper, the IGF is probably not a good idea for things related to cancer and damaged cells or however you want to label them. I get that. From a longevity standpoint, though, I do think that, and from a cancer standpoint, I want to think that the GH use is less of a concern than IGF use. And I think it sounds like that's what the doctors are saying, too. The only thing with the doctors are, especially when it comes to things like, the bodybuilding industry and stuff like that, I think sometimes when really smart people get together, they get on the same page, maybe not consciously, but they get on the same page and it's all kind of supportive and they all, I don't know, it sounds more believable and legit and people accept it more. I'm not going to be as quick to accept that because I just don't know that their opinions on it. I value their opinion. The fact that they're incredibly intelligent and well-educated and articulate, that's great. But I'm not going to be that quick to be like, oh, okay, yeah, they all say no, because I've seen top, prep guys and very smart people in the industry all get on the same page with specific topics, and then we find out a few years later that we weren't right. So from a longevity standpoint, though, I do, and maybe it's just because, again, I want to believe, I do think that GH use over the long term, if it's not abusive, is actually very good for longevity, minus the potential for, if there's that link to, cancer or, like Scott was saying, if you have a pre-existing cancer condition or cancer in your family. The thing is it's difficult, like Scott was saying, to really pin that down because guys will die, women too. People in the bodybuilding industry who use drugs, GH, AAS, whatever, are going to die from cancer, but it may not at all have anything to do with what they did or what they used because the percentage, I would like to see the percentage. There aren't going to be any studies, but I would love to see it. I would imagine that it's very possible that the percentages of people who use compounds dying from cancer might be exactly what the mainstream public percentage is. Maybe it's even lower because we're more exercised and more health conscious outside of the compounds we're using.
I would be interested to see that. That'd be interesting to see.
Because I don't know where they would be. Could they be higher from the compounds we use? Could be. Could it be the same? Could be. Could be less because we're more health conscious and aware of everything else that we're putting in our systems that, okay, maybe there is a risk with the compounds, but that food and exercise over years and years and years doesn't necessarily negate that, but is potentially more important. Obviously, dosage, frequency, how long you've used, and things like that are going to play into everything as well. But it would be nice. I don't think we're ever going to see in our lifetime anything that's going to be anywhere close to definitive, when it comes to answering those questions. So as Scott was saying, for now, you make those decisions of what you're going to do, knowing the pros and the cons, and the fact that everything we do, crossing the road, for that matter, is a risk and a gamble, and it's all, in and of itself.
And there's also, the part of people, especially in the bodybuilding world, they'll pass at an earlier age than, the national average, let's say, by quite a bit, and everyone's like, oh, it's steroids or it's this, but man, you don't know what the hell else they were doing too, so you can't really lump. It's hard to define a certain demographic or a certain type of person to what the reason behind something was. It's easier just sometimes to pin it on the big ugly,
Sure.
The steroids or the growth or whatever, when as far as they were snorting 5 lines of blow and taking 10 bars every night, but
it's only going to happen when it fits our narrative.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you're pro, AAS use or GH use, a lot of times what you're going to do is you're going to want to look at it closer and go, okay, it may not have been that. You're going to be open to the fact that it could be other things. If you're anti and you're natural and you're one of those radical, drugs will kill you and people who take steroids are losers, I guarantee you every time someone dies, they died from that. Same thing with recreational drug use. If you're against rec drug use, every person who dies from rec drugs deserves it and they were losers. But if you're open to that and you agree that adults should have, be able to do whatever they want, you're not going to tend to look at it to say it's how it fits your narrative, I think.
Yeah. So you're better off listening to 3 dumb guys than 3 smart doctors.
There you go. That was my whole
now.
point. At least we're on the same page.
Yep. Scott, did you follow your chair?
Yeah, you're just the host. You don't really have to do anything.
I was looking around at the questions.
Austin.
Wait,
yeah.
You guys want me to say something? Oh, okay. I guess.
Nah,
I guess I can.
No. You said hi, Scott, so you can say hi back.
Oh, hey, Special K. Good question. I was looking around through our questions to see what else we had. I wanted to dig up something to close the show with a non-gear related question, and apparently that's not going to happen. We've got a bunch of gear questions. So I'm going to go to one more. This is from Punisher.
Would Skip's feral cat grab his butt plug cattail
Well,
if he was running through the house?
Maybe we should get an update before we do that question from Skip. We haven't talked enough. We really haven't. The tail story doesn't really, that doesn't qualify as a cat story. What does the cat update? How is the stroller going, Skip?
Okay, here's the update. And I love these updates now even more because I know Scott hates them. So just turn your mic off, Scott, and just listen. I have 2 major updates. Number 1, Bengal Cat Linus, Mr. Personality, is loving the cat stroller thing and his walks. Took him down to only the patio, because you guys know my thoughts on dogs in restaurants. If you're on the patio, cool. If you're inside the restaurant, you're a fucking loser and you need to fucking leave, because then it's just attention seeking. Not that putting my cat in a stroller is not attention seeking, because it very much is. At the same time, it's very embarrassing to my wife, and I mean to tell you, it's very embarrassing. She is mortified. She hates it, but that makes me like it even more. So I took Linus down. He's loving it. And of course, a couple people are like, oh, my God, I thought it was a baby. I'm like, it is a baby. What are you talking about? This is my baby, Linus. Anyway, Zuri, I got a full, and this is the first one, okay? Before, if she's eating, I could sneak some pets, and then she figures it out and she runs off. This time, she's rubbing up on me, on my leg and stuff in the kitchen. So Melissa's like, you better get her, you better get her. So I reach down and I squat down and I start petting her real strong, real aggressive. And she squatted down, and she just laid there with her tail up, and I'm just petting her, and she's meowing. I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like seriously, like an asshole. I'm getting all like, oh my God, this is so cool. This is so awesome. And my wife's laughing at me because I look like such a dumbass. Like I'm ready to like cry or something. Yeah. So I'm just petting her, and she's looking back at me and doesn't want to run. I just keep petting her. And she didn't run away until Dickhead Linus has to come up, because anytime you're petting another cat, Dickhead Linus has to come up and fuck with the cat because he doesn't want the other cats to get any attention.
Oh, man.
So then Zuri had to run off, and I was like, you little fucker. Oh, my God. But it was awesome. So it's 2 years. On Christmas, 2 days before Christmas, we had Zuri for 2 years. So that means she's almost 2.5 years old. That's how long this shit takes. It's fucking horrible.
That's nuts, man.
I know.
How big is she now? Like, what does a cat like that weigh?
Well, it's funny because I take a picture and somebody will say, well, I thought she'd be bigger than that. And it's like, you have to see her because she's a slinky, and she's very long and very thin. So if she stands up, she opens doors like a human.
Really?
She could stretch. Oh, yeah. Like literally, and I'm not talking about, because some people listen and be like, oh, my cat does that. They bring the latch down, they push the door. My cat pushes the door latch down and pulls the door open. My cat, though she can't, will try with both paws to pull the sliding glass door open. Both paws. Because she is like, well, one paw isn't working. I'm going to try it with two, but it's too heavy. She can't move it. The point is she's trying to open the fucking slider.
Of course she is.
Yeah.
She'd be gone then, right?
That's the other cool part, is I'm now having all of them go out on the balcony, because I go out there and I have my coffee every day on the balcony, which is awesome because it's the middle of January and it's like 78 degrees. So I let all the cats out, and I've been letting Zuri out, and she's totally fucking cool. I know, because if she gets close to the corner of the balcony and she starts looking too much, I start thinking, because there's a tree over there, like a giant palm tree, that if she wanted to, she could probably jump to. But here's the thing. She's so timid, and so like when she would go out on the balcony, if she heard like a car drive by, she'd race back in, and her ears are always down, like she's scared. So she's not in this mode of, ooh, I have to get out there. Ooh, I have to get out there. This is so awesome. It's more like, well, all the other cats go out there, so I'm going to check it out, but I don't know how cool I am with that. So she doesn't stay out long, and she's very kind of, I don't know, ears back sort of thing, but she's going out there. So I'm comfortable with it. I actually think it's pretty good. Plus, now that we can pet her, if she did get out, I could just call Melissa and be like, oh my God, you got to come home. You got to come home. Because, she works so close to where we live, without giving that away, that she could actually come up in a couple minutes and get the fucking cat, because the cat doesn't run away from her like Zuri runs away from me. So, yeah. Now, I can't get Zuri into the stroller. That I've only gotten her in there once, and I'm sorry that I have to adjust because I've been sitting in the same spot for 2 hours. But I can't get her into the stroller. That's not as easy of a thing to do as it is Linus. Yeah. So I'm still working on that. But progress is baby steps, man.
You approve, Scott?
I couldn't give a shit.
All right, one more question here. This is from Punisher. He says, what are your thoughts on the cleanliness and potency of Pharma grade versus UGL? I personally feel that even if a UGL tests as accurately dosed, there are almost certainly going to be impurities and unwanted substances in the mix. This can happen at any phase of the process, from raw materials to finished product. As a result, I would assume that using UGL gear for years on end could potentially result in unwanted effects. There's also no guarantee that a lab will be consistent in terms of potency. To be honest, I haven't even seen a huge difference in terms of potency, but I have seen a difference in consistency in products. What are your thoughts on reputable UGL versus pharma gear from U.S. pharmacies?
I think he answered his own question.
I kind of felt like that too. But where do you stand?
How did you answer that?
He answered his own question, saying that he thinks that you could tell he's saying, he prefers farm grade. He's afraid of, I guess, impurities, even from a good UGL. And I mean, I've seen stuff. I remember watching Under Construction 2 with Dave Crossland, where he was running massive amounts of gear, and the thing that they didn't expect to come back were that his heavy metal levels were through the roof.
Most common one.
He had like mercury, aluminum, and something else very high in his blood, and it took a long time to get that stuff out.
Okay, but he was also doing, I mean,
massive.
Yeah, I mean, that's not exactly even normal abuse. So, I mean, how do you feel, Scott? Because I can hear, you're agreeing. How do you feel about, like, I don't want to say normal use, but like normal use / normal abuse?
Yeah.
With heavy metals, I can certainly see where there would be impurities and over time, but I'll go on record as saying that I really, I clearly, farm grade stuff would be better from a quality control standpoint. I can't deny that. I think though, cost to benefit, just gains versus, what you're paying and availability and knowing that what you're getting is good. I think if you have a good, reputable, consistent source, then great. If you're bouncing all over the place and you're just grabbing one off the internet, then that would make me a little uneasy. But yet I understand too that when I started out, that's what I had to do. But I don't know about the health component as far as heavy metals and things like that. In like quality, because I think his question was quality UG, right?
Yeah. He was saying like, what do you think of the high quality UGLs versus pharmaceutical stuff?
And if he's going to say high quality stuff, I mean, I think that high quality, and obviously that's relative, but I've seen a lot of gear and used a lot of gear over the years. I think the high quality stuff that I use, I think is very good. In fact, I think high quality UGL, or generic, I guess is a better way to put it, generic growth these days is testing every bit as well as farm grade. Some of it is testing every bit as well as farm grade growth. And that's pretty fucking impressive.
Yeah, I mean, the difference really is in the raw quality. So, that's where a lot of your heavy metals and all this crap comes in. And I could say this, I mean, I get Pfizer prescribed. That shit's way better than anything else. Hands down.
What is it
milligram to
specifically?
milligram.
Testosterone?
Cypionate, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, it's just a different beast. But I mean, I mean, when you say, someone says to me, what's a high quality UGL? Well, man, I don't follow it much anymore, but that's even back in the day when I did. I mean, that's a hard question to answer because, perception puts a lot of it into it. People get on these boards and they talk about this and they got somebody that says this is the greatest and, maybe you get your results from it, but it still probably has high metal content because if you look back at, what's his name's book? Llewellyn's book, the original one. If you go look through they tested a ton of shit. I mean, it was endless, the amount of stuff they tested, and high metal content was predominant in a vast majority of what they tested. And a lot of this stuff was what people would probably have deemed high quality UGL or the perceived pharmaceutical UGL. It's made in some country that you couldn't find on a map if you tried, or they say it is. So, no, I don't think there's any comparison. I think that pharmaceutical, Pfizer, that type of thing is at a whole other level just based off of quality control and the restrictions they're under through how they produce stuff. But don't be confused, too, that most U.S. pharmaceutical grade testosterone is not made in the U.S. It's not made in the U.S. So, but it is still made under, with a company under, those same restrictions that they're under, guidelines they have to operate under.
So with the assumption that those would be, say, UGL would be higher metal, or maybe a potential for that type of situation, wouldn't it be logical then, if you're forced to use UGL gear, that you would want your compounds to be stronger versus weaker? I mean, just from a logical standpoint, it would seem that you would then potentially want to minimize, the amount of, or let me ask you this. You're saying then, because I may be misunderstanding, you're saying then that the heavy metals then would be in the actual raw powder.
Right.
not in anything else put into it. Because the more I think about it, BA, BB, oils and stuff like that, they're not going to be, they're not going to have the heavy metals.
Right. So, it's coming from the powder, and I hate to break the news to people, but the majority of this shit no one's making. It's made. It's a made product, in China or some other lovely country like that. So I hear.
I'm going to throw something out here, kind of sarcastic. So you prefer to get your Tren and your Masteron from U.S. pharmacies, Scott?
Oh, I don't use Tren.
Well, I mean, if you did, because that you do see what I'm getting at. That's the issue then, because you can't get that stuff.
There's things that you can't. I mean, you'd be surprised some of the stuff that pharmacies make, though.
Yeah,
they make a lot more testosterone. I mean, if you look at FDA prescribing guidelines, there's actually prescribing guidelines for Anadrol, for Deca, for a lot of things that people don't probably realize. So they are made by your Pfizers of the world and stuff. And but yeah, I mean, it's like anything. I mean, who's never used? Well, not everybody has, but the old Phena pellets. I mean, there's a risk of contamination. That's why there's other compounds and components of that to mitigate some of that. But I mean, I think that I'm not saying there's not something out there that's UGL that's not really good, but I would say the vast majority of them, you're probably going to get heavy metal content in or something, because it's unpreventable at some point, because the raw powders majority of them are coming from the same places. It's not like they have a raw powder place all over. There's one on this corner, that corner. It's a lot of it's coming from the same places. So I hear.
I gotcha. Skip, do you see a difference in your own life between testosterone that's farm grade in your history? I'll say in the past, using a testosterone that was farm grade versus a UGL.
I don't think enough just based strictly on progress and not anything, health related, because that's just, I can't quantify that.
Yeah.
But strictly from, strength, like aggressiveness and progress in the gym and stuff like that, I don't notice a big difference. Yeah. I don't notice enough that I go, oh man, this stuff is powerful. Now, I will say that I may not have the experience using farm grade testosterone or as much as the experience as Scott does. That could be because I only did that for about 3 years and it was all from the same place. So but way back in the day, because I was from Michigan, I did use farm grade Upjohn testosterone cypionate. And anybody who's been around for a while remembers Upjohn or even Organon,
which is Pfizer, Upjohn.
Yeah, I figured it was because I swear my brother's a commercial contractor, and I think he built one of the wings at Pfizer, because I remember joking to him going, if you ever see pallets of testosterone cypionate, you need to be doing everything you can to get those in the back of your truck. But anyway, back in the day, but here's the problem with back in the day. I was very new to gear as a teenager, so I wouldn't have known the difference. It's like when I used to use the 2 ml vials of Organon Deca. We all know that was great shit and it was legendary. At the same time, then I had no clue. I mean, I wouldn't have known the difference. It was just fucking Deca. So it was so long ago that I used that it's just not even fair for me to try to compare, because I really can't.
I gotcha.
Running your Fort Dodge EQ.
Yeah, I don't know if I remember it, but I mean, I remember things like the brown bottle Anadrol. What was it? Out of Mexico. Syntax, is that right? Yeah.
Syntax, yeah.
The little blue bottles of D-ball, tiny little bottles. They were just tiny. I mean, they looked like, what do I want to say? They looked like the size of a large sugar cube. They were that small. Just cool shit that when you had in your hand, you're like, Nilevar, things like that you just don't see.
Overseas, we used to walk, this is a long time ago, we used to walk to the pharmacy and just buy Anapolin right off the shelf.
That's funny. What about Galenicas? Are Galenicas still around or no? ICM?
I doubt it. I don't know. I don't keep up with it enough anymore.
That wasn't 80s. That was probably
90s
and stuff. But to see those things and the way they would come into the country, it's just funny to me, the evolution of everything. Quite frankly,
you used to be able to buy Ford Dodge EQ out of a feed store.
Yeah.
Until they regulated it in the mid 90s.
I knew a guy from back in the 90s who he had gone to Mexico several trips, and him and his very large girlfriend would bring stuff back, and he had this vial. It was unused of liquid D-ball, and it was like 1 milliliter or 2 milliliters, but it was a long, skinny vial, like about as wide as a pencil, or as thick as a pencil, and long. Did you ever see one of those, Scott? And it was red. It was like a red liquid.
Wow, that must have been a long time. I mean, it's probably been. I remember seeing those once in maybe I was in Mexico. We're talking probably like, 20 years ago, maybe more than that. Yeah, that didn't really catch my eye.
It was funny because
next to the go ahead.
I was just going to say I met him at one point in my life, and then I met her at another point in my life. So I heard the same story from both of their perspectives and how they were getting it back over and all, because it was illegal still at that time. And it was a weird couple, real crazy couple. They got in fist fights. They would get the cops called on them because they would just start fighting each other, and it was like two dudes fighting.
That's weird.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought most couples fist fought like that.
Halo was her favorite compound.
Oh, well,
I swear to God.
No wonder they had fist fights. Yeah. Jesus Christ. Yeah, I was like, ah.
I take Halo test and I just want to fight with myself. Like, I'll just stand in front of the mirror and punch myself in the face. You guys don't get that either? I get really aggressive on that shit.
Probably because she was putting Halo under her tongue, was going, and he got mad at her, and then boom, boom, bam. Yeah.
I think we've gone about 30 seconds too long.
Well, we had to hear about your dumb fucking cats and that one Linus. Does he have a blanket? Does he tote a blanket around with him, Linus?
Actually, I have I have a Peanuts blanket on the bottom of the stroller so that he's comfortable when he's laying in there and being pushed around in his stroller. And people like it. Young people, they just love it. They think it's the cutest thing ever. And my wife is just mortified. It's so awesome. I can't even tell you.
You're going to get Lucy next?
Oh, you gave him my idea.
Yeah. And you know what? I have 4 cats. To go any further, it would have to be dramatic. I'd have to get a serval or something like really big cattish. The problem is you can have them in the state of Florida, but there's so many hoops you have to jump through. Like I would need 10 acres. I would have to have a caged in outside, even if you don't keep them there, they can be in your house all the time, but you still have to have one of the things to get the permit is you have to have an outside caged in play area. It's just a bunch of shit that, I'm not, and I don't mean this shitty, but I'm going to say it anyway. I'm not that white trash. I can't have the outside playpen area for animals, and I'm not going to live on 10 acres anytime soon. I don't think that's just not a me thing. So,
well,
don't get me wrong. I've got white trash in me. I'm not going to.
Well, I was going to say, you're pretty much white trash to me. If you
I say, if there's white trash listening and you're offended, because make no mistake, I am a white trash motherfucker. I'm 65% German. Probably the other 35 is probably white trash. It may be higher than that. I don't know. I'll check genealogy or something.
All right, let's wrap this thing up and get out of here. This is a good show. We had some callers, we had some questions, and guys, just stay tuned. We got a bunch more stuff coming up. What do you got going on today, Skip? You training?
I'm gonna go buy a tail.
Yeah?
I'm pretty sure. Another one. No, I'm gonna train chest and shoulders, and my wife is trained. She's killing it. It hasn't been that long, but she's just in a different space. So
nice.
things are really good right now. I'm not complaining. Tomorrow, who knows?
Scott, today's your day off of work. Today's your day to hang out and podcast, right?
Today is workout day week number 2.
You're training.
I did 2 days last week, and I couldn't even move.
Yeah.
So I'm backing off today. I'm going to pull out the bands.
Right.
Do some cardio.
Cool.
I'm trying to get motivated for it, actually, but after a cattail butt plug story. I don't know if I can do it now.
Right. I go shopping instead. I get it. What are you doing, Scott?
I'm doing the same thing as you, training chest and shoulders, and writing this thing up, getting the podcast edited, getting this thing out. Ooh, I got to talk to you later too. We could talk about it on the show in the future, or we can talk about it off the air. But we have I have a live podcast set up, sanctioned by the Arnold. It's going to happen at the expo. I would love to have you there.
Are you kidding? Count me in. That would be freaking awesome.
Fuck,
I didn't get
yeah.
invited, so
Well, you would have, but Agent Schrader said you weren't allowed, right, Scott?
I like it.
Arnold contacted me. He said, "We need you at the podcast."
Hank Schrader. Oh, beautiful reference. Love it. Love it.
Mm-hmm.
I'd throw in a clip there, but we're on YouTube now, and they'd probably pull us. So
Yeah, probably. Exactly.
Good night now.
all right, guys. Well, for another episode of Blood, Sweat, and Gear with S2H and Skip Hill, check out teamskip.com. We will see you soon.
Out.
My Little Pony.
Oh.
I
That's
never
the worst.
say
That's the worst thing
You
I've
never
ever
do.
heard, Theo.
Shit.
Advices Radio Network.